officially call this Jackson School Board meeting to order. Yes. Yeah, okay, we'll officially open.
I just didn't want to know.
Okay, yeah.
We haven't called this to order, we're just opening the meeting. Because it's 60 past 6 p.m.
Oh, that's very helpful. Yes. Excellent. Okay. So,
I wanted to pass
that's very helpful. Thank you. Okay. Is that better? Can you hear
When you're on the microphone, right? You're not on the microphone now. Sometimes you sit back.
Oh, right, yeah. I'm very distinctly in person. Okay.
I normally wear
I just.
flurry of all of these.
Okay.
Yes, take that.
Okay.
Take a seat.
Oh, put it over here. All right, can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, better, okay. So we've opened the meeting and I will officially call it to order. Before anything else, I'm just going to ask if there are any additions to the agenda from anyone. For my part, I will say we had a letter that you all received from Bartlett that I'm going to just add to the agenda. That we received the letter, and I'd like to get that on our agenda for next month, but I will, for record-keeping purposes, and so that the public knows what we're talking about, I will, I'll read the letter later on, but under school board member issues, if we could just add that as an agenda item. Is there anything anyone else has? So, before we get into official business, I think Erin had just had a quick something to say.
So with this being Kevin's last meeting,
Yeah, can you come over here? You gotta get close to the mic. Yeah, come over here.
okay.
If you want to walk around, oh, you've got one, okay, good.
So with this being Kevin's last meeting, the Jackson Grammar School community and board would like to recognize and thank Kevin for his years of service to SA United and Jackson School District. For my short time here, it's clear to see that Kevin is and has been a true champion of children and a leader who brings out the best in those he leads. Author Simon Sinek says that there's a difference between offering a service and being willing to serve. They may both include giving, but only one is generous. For just over 3 decades, Kevin has not only served our communities, but he has done so with a generous and gracious heart that has had a profound impact on so many. For this, we thank you and wish you the very best in retirement. You will be incredibly missed.
I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from 5/2024.
Second? All in favor? Okay. This time I'd like to turn it over to the public. Welcome you again. And if anyone has any comments or would like to say anything, please do. Yes, Mr. Doherty.
A question for the principal. The Jackson Planning Board is involved in a capital improvement plan, and we have not offered any capital improvement plans for the school board or the school because there haven't been any put forward to us. We've checked and it hasn't been. Now David tells me that you approached them with some plans for a capital improvement request for the school. At the planning board.
Okay, no, I was at the Whitney Oversight Committee. His wife had mentioned that she'd like us to connect. So she gave me his email address, and she told me when the meetings were, and it'd be a good idea if the school could connect and attend those.
So you have something that you'd like to put forward for capital improvement plan?
Not right now.
Okay.
No.
That was what our report was
Okay.
for, but then we thought there was something else.
She felt that there would be a nice, if we could be able to have a board member or someone from the school community connect with the planning board to be in that process, that would be helpful and effective. So she passed along his information to me.
I think the plan would be welcome that.
That'd be great. I couldn't make, the meeting was last week, right? Or this week. I couldn't make that meeting, but I will work on that.
Thank you.
Good. Are you talking about you going to planning board?
There's somebody from that could represent maybe at those meetings.
I don't think we want you going to planning
Okay.
meetings.
Okay.
That's, I mean, like, I wouldn't care if you did go, but I think that's asking to get, that's outside your duties.
Okay.
It's not.
I would go, but
I think kind of like, I think what the confusion does is that you were kind of giving misinformation.
Yeah, I was confused because there was nothing coming from the board, or that they desired nothing coming from it. And then it seemed at the last meeting, the person who's sort of spearheading that said that there was some input from the school, and I just wondered what that direction was taking.
So if we were to have contribution to the planning board's capital improvement plan, we would do it as a board, not as our building principal. So it wouldn't really be necessary or even appropriate really for the building principal to be kind of the person that we would designate to communicate with the planning board. That should be a school board member if that's something that.
That satisfied my confusion, thank you.
Any other citizen comments? Okay, we'll open it back up if not, we'll move on to a presentation of school programs.
we do have a presentation to the programs. Mike Dufalo here is here with us, to Mountain Educator Extraordinaire and parent. That's going to, our 5th and 6th graders recently took a trip to Arcadia. Our 5th and 6th graders just recently took a trip to Arcadia National Park. And Mike is here to give us an overview of what that trip was like and what the kids learned while they were there.
Which computer does it?
Do you want to Mike?
I'll probably okay.
Okay.
This one?
Go on over there on that overview.
Oh, over here. Go on this way. All right. Hello, good evening, I hope you're well. My name is Mike Dufalo. I work for Ten Mountain Conservation Center. I'm the high school programs manager there. And so I had the good fortune, I spend 95% of my day at Freiburg Academy in Kidder High School and Gorham High School in Coas. But I had the good fortune of getting to spend that other 5% with the 5th and 6th grade on their end of the year trip. So we have, at this point, and this is our 3rd year of planning and putting out an end of the year trip that's a combination of science, adventure, and a celebration of community. And that's the kind of the framework we work with. And this year, we took the group to Acadia National Park, which was a very exciting experience for many of the kids. And before I go forward, I just want to say what's been nice about this is each year we've sat down and we've looked at the skill sets, the abilities, and the interest level of those students, and have tailored that trip to them. So for a different cohort of students, we may have done a self-service hut trip. We've done a canoe camping trip. And so it's really looking at which pathway is going to best engage those students to their abilities. So we went to Acadia National Park. So we actually went to, most people are familiar with the Bar Harbor region and MDI, the island. We actually went to the Schoodic Peninsula, which is the only mainland portion of Acadia National Park. So it's that piece in the left-hand picture, lower right. That's the area we went to. While we were there, we camped in the national park at Schoodic Woods Campground. And then the 2 main spots that we visited were Fraser Point and Schoodic Head. Fraser Point's on the upper left and Schoodic Head's down the bottom. All right. How did we get there? We got there in style. We, after looking at a number of transportation options, it was the most affordable and feasible to charter transportation with Sutton. We had a great driver whose son actually goes to Mollyaka. So I had this conversation, his son was actually at 10 Mountain the day before doing a program. So we did get transport out there. We also had 10 Mountain has a 15-passenger van that carried gear, but then we could also use to shuttle students when we were on the island when we needed to. Yeah, sorry, we went down on the peninsula when we needed to. So why did we go? Why do we go all the way to Acadia, right? 5.5 hours away. Kind of one of our number one focuses was learning about marine ecology. Students at the school are very lucky in that they have a lot of experiential education through 10 Mountain. It's primarily looking at forests, Montana ecology, and so this was a chance to expose them to a different new habitats, new ecosystems, and just a different place that was very new but also engaging for them. So here we are doing some time filming there. So why do we go? Marine ecology. Also strengthening interpersonal skills. I am one of the biggest proponents of residential trips, and it's really on residential trips that you see these great community building skills that come out. And so this was really a strong emphasis that we had, is not only a celebration of the year, but also working on those bonds and what does it mean to be in 5th and 6th grade at Jackson Grammar School. We also got to connect with our natural landscapes. We're lucky to live in a very beautiful area, right? We are close to the ocean, we are in the mountains, and it's really important to get our students out to experience that. I'm always amazed at how some of our students in the area don't have that opportunity. The example that I was just giving you the other day, I was talking with some funders, and I last week took a group of Kennett High School students to Square Ledge in Pinkham Notch, and out of the entire class, not a single one of them had ever been in Pinkham Notch, ever, other than driving through Route 16. Had never been to Square Ledge, had never been to Pinkham Notch, didn't know what it was, had never seen it before. These are students that have lived here 18 years of their life. And so I just think it's so important when we have these resources so close that we go take a look at them. And then finally, we want to have fun, right? We want just to have fun, have a good time, and enjoy ourselves. I really like that picture. I just find it very funny. So when we think about that marine ecology, we talked about sand cycles, tides, and rocky shore intertidal zones. We were very fortunate to have this really large pavilion right next to our group campsites in the national park. And so we used that as our classroom of sorts to introduce some of the things that we'd be talking about. We did have reflective journals that we used for pre and post assessment. So there's Poppy modeling hers right there, and you see Meryl's quietly working on hers down there. Just to help us get a sense of what they knew about marine systems going in, and then what they kind of took, kind of those big takeaways at the end of the trip. Another surprise thing is we did find a lot of diabase intrusions in bedrock. So we did actually have some geology that we connect some things that we talked about earlier in the year, which was a really, really cool feature to see out there. But the main highlight was definitely going to the tide pools. That was everyone's highlight. And so we spent the good part of one of the mornings out there on the eastern side of Schoodic Head, just exploring the tide pools, cataloging what we saw, doing some identification. There's an Asiatic short crab on the left there. It's an invasive crab. We only found invasive crabs. We found green crabs and Asiatic short crabs, which was kind of sad. No Jonah rock. We found lots and lots of sea anemones, which was probably in hundreds, which is a fun thing to find out there. And then that was a limpet. It's got a hole from radula, radula, so that was kind of a neat find as well. Just kind of enjoyed being out there. Now I was driving with an orange periwinkle. He was really excited about that. It was a really pretty color. At the campsite, that's when we get more into those community building skills. So shared responsibilities and shared living spaces. Students were responsible for setting up their tents, maintaining their tents. At mealtime, we had roles and responsibilities as well. So for students, students were responsible for cooking. We had a cooking crew, so they had to sign up and do cooking. So there's Kingston working the grill, making some pancakes. We did have 2 adults on either side of Kingston and those girls, so we were very hands-on with that. But we wanted to give them the opportunity. We wanted to give them the opportunity to burn pancakes. Like, we had students that had never cooked anything in their life, ever, right? And so they need to have that opportunity. They should be able to burn some pancakes and learn what that means, right? So we had cooking, we had cleaning, we had students do dishes for the first time in their life. Looked at the dish soap and the water and were very unsure of what to do. My son, probably chief among them, I don't want to do this. So we had a dish crew. And then eating, they're responsible for eating a lot, right? So we brought a lot of food with us. One of the things I pulled out the food, Tin Mountain wrecked all the food, and so they were like, why don't we have all this food? And my joke is always, no one ever remembers the trip where there's too much food, but everybody remembers the trip when there's not enough food. So sausages, blueberries, pancakes, they had a good time. We ate in that pavilion. It was great. And cleaning the campsite. That was the other thing that they needed to do. They were called the bomb crew, and they had to go around and make sure each night that everything at the tent site was picked up, cleared, fastened down, was ready to go. And that was a lot of things to do, and so people got tired, right? There was a lot of chores out there for people to do. We had fun. We played games. I think that picture too. That was great. That's Nora having a good time. Nora was having a good time. We built boats. That was an impromptu thing at Fraser Point. Some of the kids wanted to build some boats and see how far they could float out the boats. We're silly. We had a good chance to be out there and be silly. Every evening we would do debriefs, which I just found to be, I just find very important in general. So each evening we would sit around and we would do some pair sharing, do some reflective activities just on the day, and really give students a chance to just process the day, right? To really slow down, process the day, and that's something that a lot of 5th and 6th graders, those are skills they're really starting to build on, to have that kind of self-reflectiveness and processing, like, what did my actions of the day look like? How did other people interpret my actions today? These are really key social skills that we're really building towards, because they're going to be in middle school. 3 of these students are going to middle school next year, and it's just a whole new dynamic and a new set of parameters. And so really being able to have these reflective moments is very critical, I think, as they bridge that gap from being kids to teens. And then we just also wanted to connect with the outdoors, right? This is a great picture. So Joan took that picture, and you can see Max and Noah there just examining the rocks, and you got the big splash in the background. It's just great. It's walking along Scooty Head. That's out at Fraser Point. So this couldn't have been done without the help of many people, so I just want to make sure that say thank you to Ms. Heisler and Ms. Porter for going, working 86 straight hours or whatever it is. You have no time off during that. You're always on, you're always working, and they went out there and they did it with smiles. Ms. Master, Mr. Wade, and Dr. Fichette for helping with the grant that helped pay for all of this. One of the things that I'm so proud of is that in the 3 years that we have, 3 to 4 years that we've run this trip, we have not had to have families pay anything. It's been completely free through both fundraising, we've done, and then the past 3 years we've got the grants to be able to do this. And so I think it's important to me that as these trips continue, we are able to continue that as well. Tin Mountain, luckily, as a nonprofit, we're fortunate that we provided food, we booked the sites, we provided transportation to gear, and then tents, sleeping bags, sleeping pads, that material as well. So the last thing I'm just going to say is I'm just going to put a quick plug in. The past 3 years, the critical piece of this has been waiting for grants to fall into place. And in some cases, it's been down to the wire. And I would love to see this just become part of the school budget. I just would love it to be just a component of the school and what we do. And my hope is that if I just keep doing it year after year after year, it just will become that thing. So that's my brief plug for that, and we really had a great time. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Mike. You're welcome. Okay, we'll move on to old business committee assignments. We had tabled those because we were waiting for the election of our newest school board member, and I would like to welcome you to a hot and heavy board meeting. You just jumped right in there with 2 feet, so welcome. And James is not here tonight, but I wanted to see how you all wanted to proceed as far as you want to make those committee assignments so we can get things moving there, or is there a motion on what good pace is? Do we want to table it another month and then start to assign these committees?
So before you discuss, you need a motion to take it off the table.
Yeah. So I'm just waiting for, there's a
You
motion.
need a motion to formalize it, or what do you want?
I make a motion to take it off the table.
Second.
All those in favor, take a vote.
So we don't need any motions to assign committee positions. This is basically a voluntary basis. And like, as long as I've been a school board member, we've always struggled to do this. We've always done it many meetings late. And the reason is because no matter whose name we put in any of these slots, in reality, it's not the way it plays out. The way it plays out is that whoever's available goes to that committee. And it's always been the board chair that's kind of organized that for us. I suggest that we basically go along with reality. If there is a committee post that you want to be part of, put your name in there. And hopefully it plays out that way, with the understanding that we'll all kind of get to the meetings as necessary, or fill in what's necessary. So to me, it doesn't really matter whose name gets into these slots.
I'm in agreement with that, Jerry. The only thing I would be concerned about is I think there are a couple committees we want to make sure that we've got representation at as often as possible with more than one person. And so that would be the only thing where, sometimes if your name isn't on it, then you think, oh, someone else will take that. So maybe we could pick and choose whatever we think would fit best for each person, and then keep going the way we've done. It seems to have been a successful model of filling in for each other as needed.
This is the first time I'm seeing this, so I don't even know what the committees are yet.
So, one of the things I was thinking is because James isn't here because you're so new, I wanted to make sure we addressed it, in public, but we could table it for 1 more month and give everybody an opportunity to come back, and no question if everyone comes back with, this is where I'd like to go. And if there are questions between now and then, we could make sure we get them answered. And the other thing is, it might be a good time to evaluate, make sure if there are committees that are functioning and we're using, we keep them. If there are committees that we're not,
So we've had that discussion before.
Yeah.
We basically need these committee meetings just in case something pops up, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
That's why his name doesn't really matter if he goes in the slot. But so, Linda, just so you know, the most relevant, the most active committee is probably the policy committee. And personnel and policy are probably the most active committees that we have. Followed by facilities is another active committee. And then probably the most important committee is the budget committee. Although it only meets basically once or twice a year, usually twice a year in the fall and before Christmas. So just so you know that.
Okay.
one of the
Most
as
committees
needed.
meet how often?
They don't. They sort of meet as needed. So other than that, there are set times for the budget, and but the other committees are really as needed.
So facilities meets as needed, personnel and policy meet typically with Bartlett, and that's about once a month usually.
Yeah, the personnel's typically in the summer, August, September, because if you're reviewing, there's no collective bargaining agreements here.
Yep.
So they're personnel policies. So that's when you review all the wages and all those things. Policy will meet typically every other month with Bartlett. And then personnel, heavier in the fall,
Yep.
and then less in the spring.
We can table this if we want, or we don't really need to technically table it.
Okay. But we'll keep it on the agenda then for next month to make sure that we fill in with, you know.
Is it clear if you come in
Yeah.
and table
I mean, I think we have
it?
to.
No, you took it off the table, we'll just put it under old business.
Okay.
But you won't need a motion to formalize.
Okay.
And that way, if you have recommendations, like Melinda says, you know what, I'm really interested in X, Y, and Z, the library, right?
Yeah.
If that's something that you're on, you can email Jess, Jess can drop it into the committee assignments. If you have questions about what it takes, feel free to call my office and we can kind of explain that. We have some write-ups on these committees.
Okay. But the goal would be for next month to have names or something in place so that maybe a number of them are just as needed, like some, as, you know, the New Hampshire School Board Association delegate, that's as needed. Maybe one of the things we do is say, a number of these are as needed, but some of them we do want to definitely have people sign. So, okay, are we ready to move on? All right, then let's move on to item 6, instructional issues, 8th grade algebra plans.
Yeah, so in the packet, there were some questions regarding algebra for next year. Dr. Frechette has put this together. Essentially, students will get algebra. The good news is that for the first time in forever, we've had a consistent adoption of illustrative math for K through 12. Really important. We also recognize the fact that algebra is something that people definitely strive for without understanding algebra in its context. Because it's really important for students to get 8th grade content as well as algebra. Because Dr. Warren will tell you, I'll tell you the same thing. The push to just get algebra for the sake of getting algebra, and you're an educator, you understand that as well. If you do not get those fundamental concepts early on, they'll get the grade, but they won't get the knowledge. And then what happens is it will be detrimental as they move forward to geometry, algebra 2, in those pieces. So there's some contextual pieces that are really important. So we want to make sure everybody gets that 8th grade content. And then for those who are ready, they will start that algebra piece, but we want to ensure that they have both tracks going on at the same time. So for next year, students will start with that 8th grade content, and then about half a year they'll do assessments and determine whether students are ready for those algebra concepts. So they'll be getting both 8th grade and the algebra, and that will go for half of their 9th grade year as well. So even if they're getting the geometry piece, they'll be getting the algebra as well. So that's the big plan for next year in future years. But really, I'm telling you, having been through that, you're better off getting that solid content knowledge before taking that algebra, because it can have the other side. So this just gives you all the research related to it, gives you kind of what's happening right now, and then what will happen in the future.
Will the kids that test into taking algebra then have 2 math classes?
Yeah, it's an additional, it's like a 30-minute extra block for that algebra. Yeah.
How does that fit in with the other requirements for schedule for freshmen? I know that's been a challenge.
So it's like a skinny block that the high school's putting in for
Okay.
that, whether it's flex advisory time or something along those lines.
Do we know what they're giving up for that time? Because
It would be-
there hasn't been available time.
Well, it was available for other things, so this would be in addition to, it would replace something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we know what it would be in addition to or replacing for that time?
Right now, flex advisory, Jack works in the high school, he might be able to tell you a little bit more.
Yeah, just we back up one step. The big, I think the illustrated math's been a huge step forward, but time wasn't budgeted properly for it. And so at the high school this year, there was a 42-minute class, and I thought that it wasn't a long time. So at the high school, they're expanding that math block to, like, I think it's 55 minutes. And at the high school this year, they had this study skills program, which in my mind, you integrate study skills into all the courses, you don't teach it in a vacuum. So I believe next year, where they used to have 4 periods of about 42 minutes, there'll be 3 periods. And then Dr. Frischette has put in over a 2-year period, like a patch program, so that students do get the pre-algebra skills and the visual learning that they need and understanding the concepts of algebra, but they can come out at the end of geometry where they would have been in the past. So it's a little bit of a work in progress. I teach AP statistics, I used to teach BC calculus. I do believe that about 15% of the students are highly capable of being successful. The test scores prove it. But there's also the issue of putting kids into algebra that are quite ready for it. So I think the plan, Dr. Frischette has worked really hard on the plan with the community and the math department head. And I think if they get the time right, that in the end it will be a good solution.
So is this part of what I'm not understanding is this compensation for like previous curriculum? Like, is this just you use the word patch, is this a patch for 2 years and then we're hoping everyone is into illustrative math, everyone's moving along at back to a yearly pace for math, or will this be a permanent solution at Bartlett where if a student is able and shows readiness for algebra, they then are doing this piece for half a year with another math class there, and then they're doing a summer break, and then they're doing the other half of algebra with geometry? Is it permanent? Is it?
I can only speak for Kennett. I think they have the 8th grade going forward. I know that I was at the joint Bartlett-Jackson meeting, and Principal Young was still trying to figure out should he go with a skinny or a half-year block. There are other options. I guess I don't want to speak out of turn, but you could have math 4 days a week and have a little bit longer classes 4 out of 5 days and have a rotating schedule. But since I'm not familiar with what would happen when you push that button into the other subjects,
Sure.
I don't want to speak out of turn. But I do think that's a critical thing, that Illustrated Math program has like a lot of problem-solving, communication, processing, having high-level skills. So you really can't do it 42 minutes. The Kennett algebra teacher would go a mess. It wouldn't do justice to curriculum the way it was written.
So that's cheap.
So that's a key issue for both the 9th grade. I think next year they do have a plan and going forward. But I think Bartlett-Jackson, the Bartlett school is going to have to figure that out as well.
Yeah, one of the pieces is consistency to the curriculum. And I think that's critically important, K through 12. Because we do have some transiency, we do have some of those pieces. So we brought in, we have a math instructional coach for K through 8, Krista Bichet, who's going into all the schools. She comes up to Jackson as well as Bartlett and Kennett. So building consistency is critical. And I'll tell you that, again, being the principal of 5 different elementary schools when they weren't consistent was a nightmare, and it took some time. So we brought in Michigan Math and Science. They do meet. We do have math cohorts. We put some money into this, and as Jack said, it's really about budgeting your instructional day to make sure that you have all those components in place. So we've seen some growth. We've seen some improvements. We need to stay the course, and hopefully we'll see greater improvements.
So just to clarify my question, and I'll turn to you, looks like you have a question. So is it compensation for previous issues? And will this be a permanent solution?
We're hoping that it's a permanent solution. I'm not sure it's compensation.
Okay.
I think it's coordination.
Okay.
is more appropriate.
Okay,
With more coordination and more planning, you can get more efficient and get better results.
okay. But part of what's confusing me is it's, when we first came here, and then for years, when I had 2 kids go through middle school, I wasn't privy to how it was going, but it was just an automatic process. There was evaluation, there was the ability to provide this as an option, and it seems to have dissipated. And part of what I'm trying to understand is, what's the biggest challenge here? Is it that our students are not entering ready and prepared? Because I agree with you. You want to make sure they get the building blocks properly. You want to make sure they're actually ready. I don't think we should push for algebra if we don't have students that are capable of it. But if they're not, what's changed? Because for as long as I could tell, when I came to town and with my own kids' experience there, it was a given. The kids were ready. There were a number, and then they could do it in a year. And now I do have concerns about a student having to do 2 different math classes at one time, having to give up something else in order to do the math. And I understand you can't do everything, but and then having that break over summer. I'm always concerned about summer learning loss. So part of what I'm wondering is, if you can speak to any of that, because
So that's a conversation that's going to continue, and it's kind of a broader conversation. It's an important one, but that's kind of like that's the parameters that the Lesser's math is trying to cover. In other words, they're trying to incorporate all of this into a better math curriculum, if you will, or a better way to map the curriculum. I think the immediate problem that we're seeing is that Bartlett is trying to figure out how to get a 55-minute math block. And with their current scheduling and classes, they haven't figured out how to do it, as far as I understand it yet. They have a new principal coming in, and staffing. I'm assuming sometime over the summertime they're going to try to hash that out so they know what they're doing in September, unless they already do know what they're doing in September. So I think some of this we're going to have to wait and see what Bartlett decides to do for our 7th and 8th graders that are coming there. That's what we discussed at the joint Bartlett and Jackson meeting was particularly that. And what we're trying to do in the immediate solution is just get a larger, we don't want the 42-minute block for math, we think we need a 55-minute block for math. So how does that happen in Bartlett? They're trying to figure that out. The new principal, hopefully they'll be able to sort those things out and get back to us on where that's happening. Does that sound accurate, Kevin?
Very accurate.
And the other piece of that too is hopefully between now and September we'll have a new superintendent and we'll also be weighing in on that.
Do we have staff? Is there staff at Bartlett assigned to this at this time? I know that was a topic at last month's meeting.
They're advertising current.
Okay. All right, I'll leave it there then for now. I thought this was a plan that is finalized, but you're saying it's still in the works.
Well, this plan is finalized.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lesser math and what it covers in those programs. They cover very well what you're talking about, but there will be continued discussions about how that happens over the course of the next year and more. But the immediate need was more of that, how does Bartlett figure out the blocking pieces? We should our concern for our 7th and 8th graders.
Right, I mean, I guess it seems like a new problem. We used to not have the blocking piece. We were able to provide algebra in 8th grade just for students. I mean, am I missing something?
I think there are 2 different pieces.
Okay.
One is you can take the cut scores on NWA and you can say, okay, Jack, yeah, you're ready for algebra. Jerry, you scored a 4 on these things. And you could create that cohort. And I think what we've recognized and what the research will say is, yeah, you could do that, but you're missing these fundamental content that will be critical as you move forward to algebra, to geometry, trigonometry, in those concepts. So that's a piece. You got it. So you can continue to do that. Students could go to take VLAX algebra in the beginning of 8th grade. They could take it at the end of 7th grade if they choose to. But we want to make sure that we have them grounded in those fundamentals that will pay dividends later on. That 8th grade content, that 8th grade math, according to the research, according to this curriculum, is critical for them further on down.
Right, and I'm well versed in that research, so I agree with that 100%. Part of what I'm wondering is, going back a year or 2 before that, number one, are we only identifying that ability at that time, Or are we seeing that students are able to do more complex or complicated math earlier, and are we not able to give them that math earlier? I mean, we're assigning 8th grade to it, but I think we all know that on any given day, students at any level, and then students are at various levels. So if we're personalizing for each student, are we able to personalize it in 6th or 7th grade so that they get those core concepts and they feel very comfortable with them, so they can go into that 8th grade year more confident? And you might not be able to answer that tonight, but I am definitely concerned about it.
It's a much deeper conversation than 5 minutes, but
I just noticed there's an article here about guidance for accelerating students in this mathematics program, so it would be great to read that. I'm
Yes.
sure they have it built in.
they do.
It'd be crazy to adopt a program that doesn't allow for that.
Right, so I did read that. I'm just wondering, in terms of logistics, and we can leave it here at this point, but just in terms of logistics, it seems like a big ask for those kids to be doing 2 maths at once, a big break in the summer, things like they're giving up something else. So I just, at this point, I'll just register my concerns and hope that it works out for now. So, anyone else have anything else on that? Okay. All right, consider personnel actions. Confirm the election of Patrick Walsh as the English supervisor.
I make a motion to confirm Patrick Walsh with happiness.
Second?
Linda, do you want to take your first, second, or first motion?
I don't even know who Patrick Walsh is.
No, this is technical, I second.
Okay. These are new vacancies.
Yeah, that's
We're
great.
very excited about it.
Oh,
Greg
oh,
would be
no, I
very
was
happy.
gonna- so just process-wise, budget-wise, we make
I-
motions and seconds.
Yeah.
And then we discuss, and then we vote to whether or not we do what we made a motion for.
All right, all in favor? Okay. That's exciting. Congratulations.
Very
Yay. Work and getting him on board.
Is
So,
he here? No, he's not.
that was us.
Oh, great.
He's been at most every so.
Yeah.
Over the last, I think, couple of months.
Okay, business affairs.
In your packet, you have the budget status report. So as you folks know or don't know, you established with us the budget pretty much 14, 15 months in advance. And it will close, our fiscal year closes on June 30th. So that means we will not put any purchase orders or anything forward after June 30th. It usually takes some time for the finance office to close out everything, because bills will go out June 20th, June 25th, and then we'll get invoices. So that will typically close out at the end of July, and then we'll have an accurate number that will determine your fund balance and what's left over. So for you folks, you have different things. So encumbrancy. So for example, the principal's salary. We know we're going to pay Aaron throughout the year, and that money gets encumbered. Health insurance for employees that we do have, fuel costs, a lot of times those will be encumbered funds. We try to get the principals and the staff to earmark that typically at the end of May, beginning of June, so there shouldn't be any surprises at this time. So with that being said, you're in good shape in Jackson. There were no big surprises as far as students moving in, students moving out, catastrophic, issues with the building or something along those lines. So you should have a fund balance come August, which is good, better than the deficit. So that's what your budget status report is.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You could, okay, make an estimate at this point in time.
273,800.
Oh, seriously, but that.
I'd say you're probably in the $250,000 to $300,000, which is good.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Thank you.
All right. Administrators reports. Superintendent?
Yeah, just a few things. We had Kennet High School graduation, a wonderful day, outdoors. It's always pretty special at Millen Stadium for the students. Prior to that, there were a lot of scholarships and awards nights that took place. Nice celebration for all of the graduates. We have school to career camps that are coming for Jackson students. So those are the 6, 7, 8, and some 9th grade students that we've been able to use some federal grant dollars to support. But those sell out very quickly. Those do take place at the high school in the summer. So if you want to go see some students going to construction camp or aviation school or any of those things, feel free to do that. We do have an SAU9 meeting this Thursday. I sent out an email, and that's regarding the superintendent process. Along those lines, one of the pieces that I do encourage you folks at the board level, SAU9 is where you get reports from folks. The last meeting we had, actually Jesse's whole family did a presentation, a series of presentations on the Key Club and some clubs and organizations. They'll do presentations on ELOs, extended learning opportunities, sometimes quick videos. There are times where we will review curriculum, we'll review data points, we'll try to explain things at the level. They're open to the public as well. But if you want to find out more about what's going on at the middle and the high school level, that's a good place to go. In closing, thank you very much for the recognition. I will encourage the board, and Jerry has been a long-time board member, and it was funny, I brought my book. We started talking about tuition contracts in 2019, and we had a tuition review study committee. I think Jess was on there, Jerry had been to a number of these. There are reports on the SAU9 website. One of the pieces that we've seen is some turnover in the board. And really to be good guardians and stewards for the district, it's hard when boards turn over. And it's been tough for a couple of years. But I would encourage you to continue to do that. You have a wonderful, great community here. I enjoyed coming out here. It's special. Mike showed you a little slice of that with the kids out there. You have beautiful facilities here. I know that we've gone through some growing pains. One of the best decisions I think you folks made was my recommendation to hire Erin. Last year at this time, the culture and the climate was not great. It was struggling, and that was #1 target for Erin to do so. I would say with extreme confidence that has turned around from a student perspective, a staff perspective, and a community perspective. So that was after you gave me the gift. But truly, I think, take care of her, and she will take care of the students in the school. So that's all I have. If you have questions for me, by all means, feel free.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Principal?
It's hard to follow.
Yeah.
But as you can see from my board report, May and June is extremely busy. I won't go through everything. It's busy, but it's really super exciting. I'm a firm believer in celebrations and celebrating our students, and we've done a lot of that while integrating a lot of learning and community event, as you can see. Microphone, sorry, Melinda. A couple things that I did want to highlight is tomorrow's our promotion, where we have 3 sixth graders heading off to Bartlett, so we're going to celebrate that tomorrow. And then we're going to have a barbecue to end the school year, so that's really exciting. Another thing that I want to highlight that was new joining the district this year is that we participated in the graduation walk for the Kennet High School graduates, and I shared this with the admin team. It's one of the highlights of the year because in education, I truly believe that graduation is really one of the most important days of the school year. It's just a reminder that even in this K-6 setting, we really have a large impact on those students way down the line. So I look forward to someday hopefully seeing some of these kids walk through. But I think it's just a really important reminder that the work we do is very important to get them to that point. And just to end, this is the school board meeting ending my first year here. And I just want to say in all my years of education, this is, despite some of the challenges, has truly been one of my most rewarding and delightful years. And that really is a testament to a school board that is extremely supportive, a community that is extremely supportive, and we have just an outstanding staff that in all my years of education, I've never seen staff that care so much about kids and their well-being and their education. So I feel very honored and grateful to work in a place and get back to really enjoying education. So thank you for that. I'm really looking forward to digging my heels in this summer and getting some real work done. Now that I get a full year under me, I have a lot of Post-it notes and plans to start off next school year. So thank you for that, and I appreciate it. If you have any questions on my board report, I'd be happy to answer them.
What do you need for our support over the summer for the hiring that's happening?
As far as hiring, we have some interviews I'm trying to set up for next week. And I guess the biggest support would be just thoughtfully thinking about my recommendations, and I'm gonna stay consistent with really, like Kevin said, changing the culture of the school was really my priority. It was a challenge, and I feel like together with my staff, we have done that, and I've got really positive feedback from families, from students, and from staff, noting that positive climate and what a difference that makes, because it is a connect correlation to student achievement and student well-being. So I guess my biggest task of the board would be just to support me in knowing that I'm thoroughly looking at candidates to see who would be the best fit for our current staff, and just supporting me in those decisions.
Great. Thanks.
Just for you folks, you only meet once a month. We want to hire people expeditiously as well. So much like we did with Mr. Walsh, if we get a good candidate, Karen does the vetting, my office does even further vetting. I would push out a recommendation to you folks so that we can get people on board and then confirm at the following meeting.
Absolutely.
You guys are good with that.
Yeah.
No, that'll probably be coming from Dr. Frechette at this point in time.
Yes, right now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're here to support you through that this summer, Erin. So if it's like, hey, we need to move on this, I mean, I think we're all ready to be responsive by email and get the ball rolling and back you up.
I appreciate that, and thank you for the support with the maintenance position. That's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just two quick things. One, those joint meetings, they having just attended the most recent one, they do a really nice job of each building leader brings a report and highlights different things. So it is a really great way to see what's going on at the high school. So if we're interested in that conversation, it is one way for us to, we're not in the four walls, but really to kind of live the experience a little bit with them. So I definitely would want to encourage you to, add on to what Kevin said. And the other thing is that senior walk may have been the highlight for many of those seniors from here, because I had a chance to spend some time with them. And not only did they get to come back and see the building and the kids, but I think the bus ride gave them, they don't all spend time as friends, right? I mean, they're friendly, but they're all gone their own ways, even at Cannon. And so I think it was like a moment to just have some nostalgia and to talk about some of the fun that they've had through the years. And, they kind of all remember how they connected, and even the Bartlett students. So that was really special. A really lovely experience. Okay, let's, and Mr. Lloyd, we're gonna get you to that Celtics game. We're gonna move along here now at this point. So it's 8:30 start time. I think we're at lots of time. I'm about bored now that I said that.
No, 7:15.
7:15. Is it 7:15?
I don't know, that's my goal.
Oh, 7:15. My goal too. We're setting 7:15. Okay, so, all right, community reports. Anyone have anything beyond what we're going to talk about, the high school community? Okay. High school options. Mike, do you want to take that, since you did such a good job of...
I will make a nomination for us. I make a motion that we create a high school options committee with the following, can I give the charter at the same time? With the following charter to number 1, evaluate Freiburg and Kennett high school options, and number 2, to understand ramifications for offering both Freiburg and Kennett as high school options.
Okay, so is there a second?
Can you repeat the second? Yes. The second one is to understand ramifications for offering both Freiburg and Kennett as high school options.
Thank you. I'll second that.
All right, all in favor? All right.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. All opposed. My apologies, Jerry.
Can I just add, I apologize for letting my frustrations kind of come through. Being a chair and a new chair is not an easy task. We have contention here. I think contention is healthy.
Yeah.
For the public to see us, back and forth. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the public should understand that the job of the chair is to take a fair and balanced approach to, and to be open-minded in terms of how we take that approach. And I have full confidence, Jess, that you're able to do that. There'll be learning things along the way with lots of different things being shared, and we should be patient and allow for those to happen. But where I want my frustrations come through is for the process. It's not for you, and it's not for the way that you're running the meetings. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you. And you know, I'll just say, I think it's good for civics that we don't bring Jerry. So, and you, I mean, so, and you know, not that we, I mean, ultimately we need to get to an answer, but so.
Could I nominate the two of you to be on the committee?
I second it.
Okay. All right, Jerry, ready for the frac show? We're all in favor of that? Well, let's finish that last vote. So we had 3 in favor, we had 1 against, and no abstentions. So we have a second.
So yeah, I nominate
Yes.
Jerry and Jess to be on the committee.
Come on, Jerry, we can do this.
You know, I've done a lot of wrong things in the past. I probably deserve that.
I'm not going to take that personally, Jerry. It's the.
Oh, no, I mean, in general, I've done some things in my past, in my life that makes me deserve that punishment. Because it's going to be painful for me, but I'll do it.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
It's good, Jerry. It's going to be good for the outcome. It's going to be good for the.
Can I already vote on that?
Yeah, let's vote.
Okay, so Jerry and do we need to vote on that?
Yeah.
Okay, Jerry and Jess on.
Okay.
Jerry and
Just
Jess.
Alright.
one.
Yeah. Great, I'm sorry.
You could appoint members.
Yeah.
But-
So
This is more fun.
I think that, I'm kind of fun, so here we go. I think we should have 3 community members. I think that we have a couple people in the audience who've already said that they would be available. I think my recommendation, I don't know if this has to be a motion, is that we establish, if we can, all 3 of them, maybe we have an open spot for people who aren't here who can join, and we set forward the plan that in June, we have a first meeting with the committee within the next 10 days. We nominate individuals or a dyad to interview each school, per Jerry's point, so we're moving forward. And that information gathering sessions happen with Kennett and Freiberg, and then a work plan to understand the options for item 2 is done. All before July meeting.
Okay, so just to back up for a second,
Yes.
perhaps what we could do is we could invite the public, if there's anyone that would like to serve on this committee, to get in contact with either Jerry or myself.
No, can we speak up? I think
Well, I think we have people who emailed in saying they want to be on a committee or they want to participate in the process. So actually, it's up to us to make that decision.
my sense is that we have some people here who, so I think we can do both. I don't think it's either or, right? So I think what we do is say, are there people here who'd like to be part of the committee? We can have open spaces for other people. All these meetings are going to be open to the public at 5 o'clock before school work meetings, right? So this is done in an open way. And then I think what we were trying to say is not have a situation where let's have a committee. Let's have the committee start a month later. Let's have the committee decide what they're doing a month after that. But actually be an action towards our goal so that in February, the ship is very tight and we're ready to go for anything that needs to happen before the March meeting.
And I'm all for having some type of lines. My only concern is, I think it would be healthy to know people who are interested in serving. And
You get, so maybe what we could do is could you suggest, maybe we could get from the crowd here, if anyone's interested, and then maybe you could get back and say, as part of the committee, that you guys are going to finalize the committee and have the first meeting by X amount of time.
You know,
That's
so we'll do that.
I think the important piece, just to reiterate, is that these meetings will be open to the public.
Absolutely.
And I can't imagine the committee is going to be adverse to hearing from.
No,
never.
Right, I mean, even if you're not on the committee, we would definitely welcome folks to come. I think that one thing I'm really experiencing is that folks want to share their experiences with us, so that would be one of the things we have to decide as committees, how can we have folks' voices heard in a constructive way? So, obviously, we will have jobs to do for that committee, but that might be one of the things we need to do is.
And I think for transparency's sake, so that you and I don't have to communicate between now and June, why don't you just name the committee members? Because technically, if you and I were to talk about that in between meetings, that'd be a violation of the right to know also.
All right, that's fine with me, it's okay with you all. Okay. So we'll set the meetings for 5 o'clock on the days of board meetings.
So you're going to have a meeting before the general
Yeah, but it's just back up, generally we'll try to meet 5 o'clock before the general meeting, but before that, you're asking that we would start to reach out to gather information. One of my concerns is what exactly is the information you want from the folks we're gathering from? Because that was something we ran into.
So I was looking, I mean, there was some work that was done previously. I'll send that to the whole board
Okay.
about the matrix.
Yeah.
And you guys, at least as a jumping off point, it's not a blank sheet of paper.
Yeah.
But it does go through, and there's some information regarding costs, class size, and staffing, and special education, all those things. So you can take a look at that,
Great.
and then if people have other ideas, you can.
So how about this, we'll make our best effort to get organized and start to get things moving. You know, for example, if like both principals are away because they just graduated classes, we may not get information in the next 10 days or so. But we'll just start to make those efforts and we'll work together to do that. And we'll try to set a meeting between us for the first committee meeting as soon as we can to at least start to establish some of that, like we did tonight. Great.
And you and I can have, I think, logistical conversations about that between now and then. It's just,
Yeah.
if we're to make decisions about this.
No, that
person
makes
taking
sense.
on, That's a decision that is,
Yeah.
or authorizing you at the decision.
I got you, yeah, so anyone who's interested, please let me know, and some of the folks already have, and we'll try to just put together the most constructive community we can to move things forward. All right, anything else with that? Okay, great. The item C, FYI, policy advisory committees to the board, that was in our packet, I think it was emailed then. So, do you want to speak to that at all?
It just kind of guides you through the process of establishing an advisory committee to the board. You folks have kind of done that already. Ad hoc committees, those type of things. Usually those expire when the question is answered, right? So if you had a playground committee that was established, you build a playground, well, you dissolve the committee and move on. So there are RSAs related to that. You as a board, ultimately, no advisory committee can make any decision for the district. That's your authorization, so it just kind of spells it out.
Great, okay. Item D, board discussion, superintendent search summary updates. For one, there's a meeting on Thursday.
There is. There's a recommended candidate for the superintendent, and then there's a little bit of work that needs to be done prior to that, so that'll be a topic of discussion on Thursday.
I'll be able to get that Thursday.
Great.
So I've already emailed you, Kevin. I will not be able to be there. My regrets that I can't be there, but if anyone else is able to go, support.
I cannot be there.
Okay, so we'll definitely have you, and hopefully coming back.
As long as it's representation from Jackson. Terry.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a discussion about committees, right in practice there. Okay, we had one item E, which was, I just wanted to read this letter that came out from Emily Calderwood, who's the Bartlett School Board Chair. She sent a letter to me, which I forwarded to the board. It's dated June 12th, and I'll just read it, and it will probably go into our minutes, but I'd like it to get as an item for our next board meeting if possible. So, Dear Jackson School Board, as the Bartlett School Board plans for the future of JBES through our 5-year strategic plan, we are looking to understand how our student population may change in the upcoming years. We are interested to learn if Jackson would consider increasing the number of grades tuitioned at JBES anytime in the next 5 years, beyond the 7th and 8th graders that JBES already takes. We're happy to discuss this further in the meetings. Many thanks, Emily Calderwood. So if we could get that on the agenda for the next meeting, great. Okay.
I'll just say towards that one, I think that we kind of have to tamper it down. We probably won't have a lot on the agenda for June about this because this is going to, we'll be working on this over the whole year. Like there's a lot to this, a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to cover it in one meeting anyway.
No, but it would be good to sort of bring Melinda up to speed, get Dear James, and just at least even decide. Honestly, you're the longest serving board member, maybe you're to hear so just to open up the conversation, but I didn't want to do it tonight because, So, okay. I think that brings us to the date for our next school board meeting will be Monday, July 15th, 2024 at 6 p.m. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the citizens. Are there any comments or questions or any participation you'd like to make? If you're interested in serving on the committee, you can let me know now or see me afterwards. Just be a good time. Yes, Mike?
I just want to make sure I'm reading this right, that in the handouts for math next year, the patch and the 2 classes, that's referring to 9th grade and those students taking geometry, and that for 8th grade, it's going to be a semester of basic 8th grade, and then those students that test in the second semester are taking on the road. Did I read that correctly? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the 9th graders that do the patch. Okay, thank you.
Allison, did you have something? Or were you just like?
No, I'm
reading?
sorry.
Yeah, no
I'm still reading through the
Yes.
alphabet.
Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, Michael. Excuse me, my voice. I think first and foremost, I'm happy to be on the high school committee. If you like, I'll be learning afterwards. And then secondly, I feel like I would love to see the board make some progress in that, which is why I'd love to be part of it. I think we had the citizen meeting in March-ish, and I just don't feel like we've really seen much progress since then. So I'd love to be part of it to kind of help it move along.
Sure, yeah. Perhaps we'll just chat for a second after we
Sure.
get the contact information, yeah. But that citizen meeting was in April, but yes. it's-
April,
we'll take
sorry.
that, yeah, so, all right, any other comments? Okay. We did non-public session? No, okay. Before a motion to adjourn, I do just want to say, Kevin, I have had the opportunity and privilege of seeing you in pretty much most roles within the district. And one thing I always say to people, like, you know, Kevin is just got a very big heart, and it really is very pure. I mean, I can remember you coming to Project Succeed when we were open, and it was a very big highlight. You were like foot high-fiving these little 4th graders over at Pine Tree School. And so, you know, you really kept it very personal with all of us over the years. And even though, like, we all don't agree on a lot, many things, there is a lot we agree on, and I think you've always set that tone for us. And I know I will personally very fondly remember you sending out song lyrics over and song recommendations during the pandemic, especially. And so, you know, I think we all have a similar wish, which is that you go off to a fabulous playlist of your own, and you know.
There's one more sneaking out there. For
Yeah. So thank you again for your service and for you know, keeping it very real with all of us over the years, and doing very, very hard work, because you were throwing many curveballs and really kept a steady presence. So thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
Motion to adjourn.
Get on before tip off, yeah.